Good morning, everybody. And I was asked to talk about what's the experience like for a family, and as we know, the vast majority of families are lone parent families who become homeless. And so that's what I'd like to describe. First, where are these homeless families coming from? The vast majority are coming from the private rented sector. They're being evicted from the private rented sector for one of three reasons. Either because they can no longer afford to pay the rent, which has gone through the roof, or because the banks have repossessed the house they're renting because the landlord hasn't paid the mortgage or hasn't been able to pay the mortgage, or the landlord says, I'm selling the house, or I need the house for my granny who's coming back from Canada, or I want to renovate the house, in which case you have no rights. So basically, the vast majority of homeless families, of families who become homeless, never for one moment in their life ever thought they would end up in this situation. So it's an extremely traumatic experience to lose your home. What happens when they lose their home? They have to go down to the Dublin Regional, I'm talking about Dublin particularly, they have to go down to the Dublin Regional Homeless Executive. They have to go down with their children and all their belongings. And they have to register there as a homeless family. What will they be told? They'll be told to self-accommodate. That means they have to go out and try and find an hotel or a bed and breakfast who will offer them a room. And Dublin City Council will pay for it. Now, already traumatized at losing your accommodation, to try and have to find an hotel room to live in is extraordinarily difficult. We helped one family, Focus Ireland are the main support services for homeless families, and they will help them. My own experience, we did help one family to try and find an hotel bedroom. It took 100 phone calls before we could get an hotel that had a room that they were willing to offer to this particular homeless family. So it's extraordinarily traumatizing. Homeless family may be offered that room for 3 nights. Then the room may be pre-booked and they've got to go out and they've got to repeat the thing all over again with their children and all their belongings. Eventually they do get an hotel bedroom where they may be able to stay for a couple of weeks. What's it like? We did know one family. They weren't a lone parent family. They were a family with 2 parents, a 21-year-old boy, an 18-year-old boy, and 3 young children, all in one hotel bedroom. You have a double bed, and you'll have bunk beds for the kids. The family will have all their belongings probably in black bags, occupying the space between the beds. There is absolutely no room in the place. You eat your meals sitting on the bed because there is nowhere else to sit. So it's an extremely depressing situation to find yourself in. As I say, you will constantly be moved. One family that we knew, over the 4 or 5 months that they were in homeless accommodation, had moved 20 times. So there is no stability, there is no security. What the children need, young children need, is that stability and that security. They have no idea where this hotel bedroom is going to be. It may be a long way away from their children's school. Parents may have to take 2 buses to bring the children to school. Hopefully the children, if there's more than one, are going to the same school. Sometimes the parents don't have the bus fare to come back again to the hotel and return in the afternoon to collect their children and come back again. So the parents sometimes will stay around the area where the children are in school until the school is over. One parent we knew was offered accommodation in Drogheda, another parent in Navan, and they would have to bring their children every morning into school in Dublin and return again in the evening. So they have no idea of where they are going to find accommodation. Some have had to leave their pet dog or their pet cat behind. And if you have a dog or a cat, you know how traumatizing that can be, especially for the children. But obviously the hotel isn't going to allow a dog or a cat to come in, and so you either have to put them into the pound or you have to hopefully have some relative who might take them for you. You have no place to cook your meals, so you have to buy all your food in the takeaways. Now, McDonald's is great. It gets pretty awful. But they have no choice. They have to go out and they have to buy pre-cooked meals from the chipper or from the curry shop or from McDonald's, and to feed their children, which of course, apart from being very boring, is very unhealthy for the children. They don't know how long this is one of the worst things about being homeless. They don't know how long they're going to be homeless. That's some families have been in hotel bedrooms for up to 2 years. They just don't know. Sometimes the children will say, "Mommy, when are we going to get a home?" And Mommy, of course, will have to say, "Oh, shortly," but with no idea what shortly means. So there is a sense of hopelessness amongst families who become homeless. They just don't know how long this nightmare is going to go on. There is huge depression. One child talked about he'd go to bed at night, and his mother, when she thought he was asleep, would go into the bathroom and start crying. And he would hear his mother crying because he wasn't asleep in the bathroom at her situation. Huge level of depression. As well as that, and Rory mentioned it, there's a stigma attached to being homeless. Most people's experience of, most of the public's perception of homelessness is shaped by those homeless people who are visible. That is, those who are sleeping rough, those who are begging on the street, those who are hanging around Abbey Street or the boardwalk looking for or taking drugs or alcohol. The vast majority, this is not applicable to the 99% of families who become homeless, but that stigma attaches to them. Parents will tell you that they feel embarrassed at having to admit that they are homeless. They will say they feel that they are bad parents, that they have failed their children. And the children will not admit to their schoolmates that they're homeless for fear that they will be slagged. So that stigma that attaches to homeless people attaches to everybody, including those homeless families who have absolutely nothing. The only problem they have is they don't have the money to pay for their own accommodation. But that stigma is there. One provincial town, when it was suggested that homeless families might relocate down the country, they said, "No way. We don't want Dublin's homeless coming here." I felt like replying that maybe they'd lift the area up a bit, but I resisted the temptation. So that stigma, and that affects the children. The stress that exists when you're all living together in a very, very small space, the stress on relationships is enormous. And as we heard in the first lecture, parents can become cranky, they can become short with their children, relationships get very, very strained. And the children are being damaged. They're being damaged psychologically, they're being damaged emotionally, and they're also being damaged educationally. Because if you are stressed out, and the children are stressed out because they don't have stability or security, and they're also stressed out because they see their mother stressed out. If you're stressed out, you can't go to school and study and work hard and come home and do the homework. Your body may be in the classroom, but your mind is somewhere else. So they are being damaged educationally, and that they may never make up that in the rest of their education. They may stay behind educationally for the rest of their life. Part of the stigma is people often say to me, why don't unemployed people go and get a job? In the census last year, 31% of homeless people of working age and who were eligible to work were actually working. So that dismisses this stigma, this myth that homeless people are all welfare, on welfare, all welfare spongers. They are actually, many of them, working, but their income does not allow them to pay the rents that are being demanded in the private sector. And of course, because there is so little social housing, they move into hotels. Rory mentioned the hubs. The big problem with the hubs the hubs are a bit better than the hotel rooms. I will have to admit that they certainly are, but they're still emergency accommodation. They're still not a home where the children and the family can settle down, put down roots, and begin to make a life for themselves. And the big danger of the hubs is that they will become permanent. That these are temporary solutions to get people out of commercial hotels and bed and breakfast, but the real danger is these will become a permanent feature of Irish life for homeless families. I think that is a really, really serious danger that we have to advert to, and that we have to keep pressure on, that this is not the solution to homelessness. Obviously, people have more room in a hub. They may have separate bedrooms, but they still have a shared kitchen. They're living with people that they don't know, and maybe with people that they don't want to share with. And so we have to emphasize how inadequate and inappropriate the hubs are for homeless families, even if they are a step up from living in an hotel bedroom. So I think the situation for homeless families, never for a moment did they think they would be homeless, traumatized by the experience, and the experience can go on indefinitely. They have no idea when they're going to get out of it. So this is damaging, obviously, to the whole family, damaging to the children, damaging to relationships between parents and children, and the consequences will be felt in society in the years to come. Thank you very much.